Hello friends, how's it going? It's me, Betty Jean. Today's video is going to be my Melt Cosmetics palette ranking. I'm going to be ranking all 13 of my Melt Cosmetics palettes. I am so excited to dive into this. I'm sure a lot of you know what my #1 favorite Melt palette is if you've been here before, but I want you to guess what you think my top 3 are, because I don't know if you'll get all 3 of them. So just pause here, leave your guesses down below. I'm so curious who's gonna be right. I love Melt Cosmetics. I've never met a formula in a Melt palette that I don't like. I've always enjoyed playing with their palettes. I have tried a couple in the past where the color story just didn't feel like something I had to keep around and I ended up giving to friends. And I also haven't tried every Melt palette that's existed ever, but these are the 12 that I currently have. I love all 12 of these. None of these are in risk of getting decluttered at the end of this year. I just did my declutter series at the end of last year, and these are all the ones that made the cut. And I imagine it'll stay that way through the end of this year as well, but these are my current 12 palettes. I love all of them, even though some are gonna be ranked in the bottom. I still love them. They're still in my collection, and I just wanna share them with you. Talk about my favorites, why I like some more than others, stuff like that. I've done looks with all of these palettes, sometimes multiple looks, so you can go check my channel, you can check my Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff if you need inspo. But we're just gonna get into it. Before we do, I did of course film this look. It should already be on my channel by the time this video goes up. It's from my recent reading wrap up, Get Ready With Me. And my only accessory today is this old basic choker. I don't know where it's from. But anyways, without further ado, let's rank Melt Cosmetics palettes. Ranked number 13, I'm giving to my Waiting Room palette. This was part of the Beetlejuice collaboration, I think at the end of 2020. I wasn't able to buy it at the time, and I was having so much FOMO about it. And then like a year or two ago, one of my friends gave me her Beetlejuice collaboration palettes, and I will cherish them forever. But this is the Waiting Room. I have to be careful because some of my shades are definitely a little crumbly. I've had to smush them in a few times. And I do think this is fun. I think this fits the theme really well with the Waiting Room idea. The main reason I ranked this one as low as I did is just because, like, out of all the color stories I'm gonna talk about today, I'm least likely to reach for like a red and gray color story. I like the other ones more. I still like this one. It's just not my #1 favorite, so that's why I ranked this one a little bit lower, but it's still a fantastic palette. I think it'd be really cool if they bring these palettes back or maybe revamp them this year since the new Beetlejuice is coming out, but that's just my hopefulness talking. I'm a huge Beetlejuice fan. Ranked number 12, I'm giving to my Millennial Pinks palette. This palette is so controversial. People hate this palette, but I personally love it. I mean, I know it's not ranked crazy high, but I still had such a great time with this one. I think this color story is super unique. I love the soft, dusty millennial pink vibe with these very like slatey blue grays. I just think it's such a fun combo together. Very dark and dramatic, but it can also be very cutesy and light and whimsical. It's a fun one. I've enjoyed this one. I don't really have any complaints. Like I said, I've never met a formula in a Melt palette that I don't like. I've always had a great time with their mattes, and their shimmers, while they're not like crazy shifty sparkly like a lot of the indie shadows we see nowadays, I still think they're really nice. I feel like they have like a really nice saturated metallic nature, and a lot of their recent palettes I feel like have really nice shimmers. So it's been cool seeing the brand kind of evolve and grow, but I've always loved them. I love the themes, I love their color stories, even the ones that I don't necessarily feel compelled to buy. I always think the theming is still super cool. Ranked number 11 is my 420 palette. I got this as a gift a couple years ago, and I'm so thankful for it still. It's beautiful. Such a fall dream. I love these grungy fall colors. I think they're so cool. Like, I love that it's such a good combination of like kind of grungy, but also very, very bright and poppin' and electric. We only have one shimmer in this palette, and it's a gold. I do wish maybe there was a more funky shimmer in here rather than just a gold, or if it was just all mattes, that would have been cool. But for the most part, I really, really enjoy this one. I guess everything else I'm just a little more drawn to, but this one is so, so pretty. Ranked number 10, I'm giving to my Smoke Sessions palette, which this palette's been out for a few years, but I only just got it recently. I bought it when I bought the Smoke Sessions Part 2, which I will get to here in a moment. But when I went on the website to buy it, I saw that there was a bundle to also get #1 for a discount at the same time. So I was like, well, you know what? If I do that, I'll get free shipping. I didn't own the original one. I do like the color story, so let's do it. It looks like this. It is very like bronzy teal vibes. It's really, really cool actually. And honestly, I'm surprised I didn't own this one sooner. I don't know why I didn't buy it when it initially came out. I must have just not been able to afford it at the time, but here we are now. She's a part of my collection, and I love her. I've only played with her once so far, but I had a really good time with it. I feel like you just get really really smoky, grungy vibes with this. You're gonna get that a lot with Melt palettes in general. I feel like that's just their overall vibe and aesthetic, but especially with this one, our only mattes are these two dark shades. And then you can really spice it up with all these different shimmers. It's really, really pretty. It's really fun. I don't think this is gonna be for everyone just because it's so dark, but again, you're gonna get that a lot with Melt palettes. You can always mix and match other palettes together. You can grab some light beiges from your other palettes if you need to, but this one's really fun. I really enjoyed playing with this one. I think the shimmers are really pretty, and I'm happy I own this one now. Number 9, I'm giving to my other Beetlejuice palette. This is the Recently Deceased. I will just never get sick of a Beetlejuice color story. I love the like chartreusey yellow greens with the purple. I will, however, never understand why this palette had 8 pans and then the waiting room had 10 pans and it was the same collection. Like, why didn't we make them match? And also, why didn't we go with our normal long, skinny layouts? Thank you very much. But I think this is so fun. The metallics are really rich and saturated, and I can't get over this color story. I'll always be down for a grungy Beetlejuice vibe. I think it's so fun, and this is super cute, but everything else I like just a tad bit more. Honestly, if this was shaped more like their other Melt palettes, this might have gotten ranked higher, which might be petty, but in ranking videos where I love everything, I have to be petty in order to come out with like an order. Number 8, I'm giving to the new Smoke Sessions 2. It's what I'm wearing today. It is a purple situation. It is a purple dream. I like that we have different tones of purple in here. We have things that are very bluey, ultraviolet-y, but then we have very purple shades. I even like that we have kind of these like warmer shades in the mix as well to kind of add some extra dimension. I think this is really pretty. The metallics in here are so shiny, I feel like. Like again, they're not gonna be that crazy multi-chrome, holochrome that we're seeing a lot nowadays, but it's just a really nice saturated metallic shiny shade, and I think it's really, really pretty. I love the way that metallic looks on my lower lash line. I love purple eyeshadow. This one is so super fun. The next 7 were ones that I knew for sure were gonna be in the top. Like there was no denying it. Number 7 is going to be the Halloween Town palette. I was so stoked when they did this collection last year. It's just so cool. This palette will always just give me Sally vibes. Like it looks like Sally's stitching in like ragdoll patterns so much to me. I just love these colors. I love how bold and bright it is. I love again that the metallics in here are just really shiny and pretty on the eyes. This is such a fun palette. It's colorful, it's chaotic. I'm a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan, obviously, so this is just made for me. It's so freaking cute. I'm obsessed. Number 6, I'm giving to the Gemini 2. They've done a lot of sequels to palettes, haven't they? I'm just now realizing. But the Gemini 2 is beautiful. It's kind of that grungy, dusty garden vibe, which I love. I love this kind of like grungy, pinkish, reddish, berry toned into like the grungy greens. It's just so good. It's so delicious. It's very complimentary. It's so just dingy, but in the best way. I always say that in such an endearing way. I think this is beautiful. It's saturated. It's gonna give you rich, deep looks. You could do things that are a little lighter for sure, but it's gonna give you that rich saturation, that grungy garden vibe. It is so pretty. But the top 5, I have to say I was pretty sure what my top 5 were gonna be before I even grabbed my palettes to organize for this video, so let's get to those. Number 5, I actually decided to give to my Mary Jane palette, which might be surprising because your girl's not much of a neutral girly. But this one I feel like was just done so well. If I'm gonna play with neutrals, my go-to are cool tones always. It's just my favorite. I love very yummy, like taupey, cool tone neutrals. I think it's so pretty. And I feel like this balanced it really well. Like we have kind of these weird antique-y, dingy golds into like the silvery tones, into like the taupey shades. It is such a good mixture. I feel like we have such a good range of light to dark with the mattes. And then all these different shimmers offer something so special. I feel like you just get the most pretty, like, oh, it's just like grungy glam. I love the way this palette comes together. I feel so pretty when I wear it. It's definitely one of my go-tos if I'm gonna play with neutrals, and it's just such a good cohesive palette that Melt did. I think this is so pretty. Number 4 is one that I'd really love to give more love to because I think this is such a beautiful palette. It's been one of my favorites for such a long time, and I'm still so happy with it. It's the She's in Parties palette. It's such a cutie little shorter one, not as big as most of their other palettes. I love berry tones. I feel like it always looks so pretty against my blue-green eyes. It's just rich. It's grungy but colorful, it's dimensional, and I feel like this was done so well. Again, we have such a good range of like light to deep with the mattes. Even though there aren't that many mattes, I feel like the range is just perfect. And then all these different metallics are just so pretty. They really transform the look in so many different ways. It's monochrome done right because it's not just one flat thing. Like, yeah, we have the purplish, berryish kind of tone, but it's done in such a dimensional way. I've used this palette so many times. I love it. It was my birthday gift to myself back in 2020 when I could barely afford anything, but I treated myself to this and I still love it so much. So I guess it was money well spent. This is still one of my favorites from the brand. And now for the top 3, let's see how many of you were right. Number 3, I'm getting to the Christmas Town palette. This was the second part of the 2-part collaboration with Nightmare Before Christmas. And I was so excited when they dropped this part 2, especially because I obviously ended up liking this one more. It's just so pretty. These colors are so rich. To me, this just represents the scene when Jack falls into Christmas Town and all those Christmas lights are twinkling on the snow. This is so perfect. I love this color story. It's so rich and jewel toned and just so yummy. I love how colorful and bold it is. I love these 2 shimmers specifically because they're a little bit more toppery and they just give your eye just such a wet, glistening effect. They are so pretty. I would love to see this formula more and more in their palettes because I think it's so good. It's rich, it's saturated, it's colorful, it's inspiring. I have had so much fun with this palette. I think it's to die for. Ranked number 2 is my Gemini palette. This was my first palette I ever got from Melt. This was a gift and I will cherish it forever. It's one of my top favorite palettes in my whole collection. It has been one of my favorites for years and years and years, and I'm still not sick of it. I just am such a sucker for this color story. I love grungy tones, if you couldn't tell based on how many times I've talked about it in this video. I love these burnt orangey kind of shades. I love the olive greens. This black is such a good black. It's so dark. I just feel like my truest self in this palette. It's so pretty. It's a color story I never get sick of. This is what I call neutrals with a twist because to me, these are like colorful neutrals. It's grungy neutrals. It's so my vibe. I love this so much. I never get sick of it. And this is gonna remain one of my top favorite palettes, hopefully forever, because it's just that good. And finally, ranked number 1, the palette from Melt that I don't know if it'll ever get dethroned. It is the Muerte palette. I fell in love with this the second it got announced, and I'm still so in love with it. It's still one of my top favorite palettes in my entire collection, and it has been ever since it launched. It is so good. It was my number 1 favorite palette in my entire collection for quite a long time. Just look at how gorgeous. I never get sick of this. The rich reds and burgundies with those royal blues and then the pops of teal and turquoise. It is so aesthetically pleasing. The shimmers in here are so rich and saturated, but the mattes are definitely where this palette shines. We get so much range, so much depth, so much color. It is so mouthwatering and I love it so incredibly much. I think this is such a beautiful color story, such a flawless palette from the brand, and I just love to see it. And I think they brought this palette back. It was like discontinued for such a long time. I don't know if it's available at this very moment. I'll have Melt's website down below for you, but it was back, and I hope it still is because this deserves to be a permanent member of their repertoire because it's just that good. And I have my stack here. I think that says it all for this video. I would love to hear what you're thinking. Do you love any of my favorites as much as me? What have you tried from Melt? Feel free to rank all of your Melt palettes down below if you have more than one. Also from Melt, I'm such a sucker for their liquid lipsticks, and their cream blushes are so good. They have so many good products. I love this brand. If you made it to the end of this video, think of your favorite Melt palette and leave emojis that represent it. That would be fun. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out a lot. And if you're not already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm BATTYBEAN there as well. And if you want, you can subscribe. I'm posting most days over here. You can also join my channel memberships. The link to sign up will be down below. You'll get fun little perks, including a members only video once a month. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.